Welcome back to Newsnight. Well, Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike has denied taking the People's Democratic Party presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar to court. Online reports had claimed Wike dragged Abubakar to the court. But the governor has blamed allies of Mr. Atiku for the news making the rounds. He made the clarification at the inauguration of the Rivers State House of Assembly quarters. Wike notes that the bigger challenge ahead is how to win the 2023 general election for the party.
I want to say categorically, if I had reason to go to court, I would go to court. But I didn't go to court. I just want to say it for Nigerians to know. I have kept quiet. I'm busy delivering dividends of democracy. For my party to win election in Rivers State, people are busy plotting how they win election. Rather, people are busy trying to see how they will lose election.
Well, it's the latest in what is turning out to be a series of fake news involving the Rivers State governor. Earlier this week, there were claims that the Rivers governor had ordered the removal of the party's flag in the government house in Port Harcourt, a claim which turned out to be false. So how has fake news helped to fuel this so-called feud? Joining us now in the studio are Arise analyst Frank Tietie and Mahmoud Jega. Thank you both of you gentlemen for joining us. Let me start with you, Frank. Well, good to see you.
My pleasure, thanks.
Fake news, social media. Let me just quote the Department of State Service, where they say that fake news and social media will be the biggest, threats to the 2023 elections. Now, put that side by side with what we've been hearing lately about the feud between Wike and Atiku. How much damage is fake news doing to all of this, situation?
Very much. There's no doubt about the fact that fake news poses a big threat to our democracy, but it also becomes a challenge that demands a greater response from those who operate government and those who are in charge of purveying correct news. And I'm talking about the mass media and particularly the government ministry in charge of information. They need to step up and begin to be innovative to create channels for verification of news and to a large extent always up to the minute giving correct information. It is the fact that government agencies and big mass media are not up to the challenge. They appear to be a bit behind those who are responsible for generating fake news. Fake news is a major problem, and it can create serious crisis in the coming elections, especially when tempers and emotions will run quite high in terms of supporting candidates for the election. We just hope we won't experience what Kenya experienced in this, the last elections, not this immediate elections, which led to, wanton destruction of property and loss of life because of rising tempers. We need to rise up to the problem of fake news, indeed.
All right. Frank Tietie, when you say the big mass media have not lived up to expectation, isn't it a function of where you decide to source your news as an individual? But let me bring in Mahmoud Jega into the conversation. Mahmoud Jega, when you hear Governor Wike say it's the members of the PDP, to be precise, Atiku's allies that are peddling this fake news, particularly in the instance of going to court, how does that cross your plate? Should Atiku Abubakar be worried?
Well, that was what Governor Wike said. Personally, I didn't think that was the case. It looks more like the people who are trying to, widen the feud and prevent reconciliation among the top PDP. Because the people around Governor Atiku Abubakar, if they are truly his supporters and aides, would be very interested in achieving a reconciliation instead of widening the rift. But of course there are some people who would not want the reconciliation, and they are sending all this fake news. But as Frank said, the editors have a serious responsibility here. As we move towards the campaign and the election, there are many unscrupulous people around who will sit down and concoct stories like these fake ones and plan them in order to achieve some political aim. And editors should be extra careful. This particular story, for example, that made it to the websites of some major newspapers. Any editor should have said, no, but the time for filing a pre-election case has passed. It's 2 weeks after the primaries. It's now getting to 2 months after the primaries. So how could it be? And also, even the details of the reasons that were filed allegedly filed in the court were laughable, saying the votes for Tambuwal were removed and added to Atiku. That was a laughable thing that anybody should say in court. Tambuwal withdrew before the voting started.
Yes.
No votes were cast for him, so nobody could have taken his votes and added them to Atiku's own. And even when they said that the votes should be separated, and who can separate the people who voted for Atiku? How do you know the one who voted for Atiku because Tambuwal told him to do so? You know, it's a ridiculous thing. And the editors should have said, okay, if Wike went to court, Wike is a serving governor, call his press secretary or any other official and make sure that he was the one who filed the case. Not to report it widely as the letter and say he has denied it.
Well, it's a good thing he shut it down as quickly as possible, but whether that move has even made any difference at all is a matter for time to reveal. But Frank, don't you think the political actors themselves, the politicians, especially those seeking political office, leave this vacuum? And you know what they say? Nature abhors a vacuum, so they allow the peddlers of fake news to have a field day. Does that mean that something needs to be done about the conflict resolution skills within the political parties in a way that these issues don't fester and make room for fake news, to have a field day?
There will always be speculations because the correct news is not out there. People just don't have, I would say politicians and especially political office holders don't just have special advisors on information. They are information managers. They should be quick to put out the correct information there. If they don't do that, there will be room for conjectures and speculations that will lead to the spreading of fake news. Now, there is bound to be conflict in political affairs, but that's something that can be easily taken advantage of by the various interests involved. That's the reason why those who, especially take, for example, the Wike Atiku crisis, if those in Wike camp or in the Atiku camp don't put out the correct information, the official spokespersons don't put out the correct information at the right time, there will be room a lot for wrong news, conspiracy theories, and fake news indeed. But I'm a bit confused when it comes to this issue of this Wike story, considering the pedigree of the papers that actually reported it. Online papers, I don't want to mention names, but we know the reputable papers like This Day wouldn't fall for such chicanery. However, when you look at the category of those newspapers, talking about, giving facts of a reported case, and in fact, I even have one of the papers reporting the suit number, I get very worried. And the way and manner Governor Wike dismissed it didn't quite show someone who is angry at the misuse or the misrepresentation of his person. So there appears to be some tacit approval of the mischief. And if you look at, if you analyze his comments at that inauguration with Femi Gbajabiamila, it appears that he wanted to just somehow send a message of a nuisance to the other party. I'm talking about the Atiku Abubakar camp. And that's dangerous. Because one would have expected Wike to issue threats and to that particular lawyer And that particular newspaper that is yet to even publish a disclaimer, a very reputable newspaper, not this day I must emphasize, that there hasn't been a disclaimer. So there appears to be some factual connection to the proclamations, the publications. And Wike hasn't helped the matter. It shows that there is more than meets the eye in what has just happened.
Okay, Mahmoud Jega, let's flip the coin because Frank Tietie had spoken about Wike's response, but I also remember him saying, God will shame those who went out with this fake news. And he tacitly also said today, speaking to Femi Gbajabiamila, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, that my business is not to support your party then, when we didn't support you to become Speaker, and even now. So he seems to be re-emphasizing, I am still in the PDP. But let's flip it to the Atiku side. How should Atiku be responding to all of this?
Well, if the story alleges that it was Governor Wike who went to court, possibly they could only call him behind the scenes and ask whether it is true that he was the one who went to court. But I agree with Frank that Governor Wike did not completely help matters, especially by alleging that it is people around the candidate, Atiku Abubakar, who are planting stories that he has removed PDP flags from government house and also this particular one, because the net effect of that is to actually sow discord and crisis within the immediate circle around the candidate. Now, you can't possibly say that if you are helping the candidate, and then all the other conflicting messages that he is sending, like in the last few days, inviting chieftains of APC to come to Port Harcourt and commission project. I think he called Senator Wamakwa, and he called the governor of Lagos, and
all
now
the
he
Tinubu
called,
associates.
Exactly. Also, he is really sending all kinds of mixed messages. I think Governor Wike, if possible, should calm down and decide what he wants to do. If he wants to migrate to APC, by all means, let him do that. But sending mixed messages like this is causing unnecessary tension in the political scene.
All right, Mahmoud Jega, thank you very much. Frank Tietie, thank you so much for joining us on Newsnight. Well, we've been hearing Wike would not even think about leaving the PDP. We'll see how things pan out.